Tonight, drunk. I knew.
Hello, this is Skeptical Root, coming to you once again from my basement office. Probably always going to be from my basement office. My Logitech C920 webcam shoots in 1080p at 30 FPS. It's good enough for YouTube, good enough for most displays at this time. Actually, it works out pretty good. I can render stuff in 1080p. I don't know if it's a 30 or 60. I think it's a 30. The 930. It doesn't matter. Good webcam if you want one that's not too expensive. It's like, geez, I think it's like $60 right about now. 60, $70. I got it for Christmas a year or two ago because I wanted a new webcam because my old one would not shoot above the 720 at 25 FPS. This is not a Logitech. It was an older one. I'd had that one for years, but I've been planning on starting this YouTube thing for a while, so getting off the subject. I want to apologize for my last video now that I'm a minute into this. God, it was boring. I was very tired. It was very late when I was recording it, and I wanted to get something up there, and that's what you got. Watch it if you're doing something else. Listen, it's more important to... I mean, I'm doing this talking head style because you don't really have to see me. I'm not doing a lot here right now where, you know, you need to pay attention to the screen. I mostly listen to YouTube videos. I'll put them on in my car while I'm driving, and I'll just drive, and I don't really look at it too much. Or if I'm cutting the grass, I'll put the headphones on, go out there, cut the grass, with the phone playing YouTube in my pocket. So there are certain ones that I'll do that with, and not all of them, because some people on YouTube spend a lot of time on the visuals, and I don't want to miss that, and I don't want to cheapen the value of what they're doing by not paying attention. But some other ones where it's not quite as important, I will just listen to. Listening to episodes of the Atheist Experience, for example, I don't need to see them. You know, I know what they look like. I can see them when I turn it on. I can, hit play, put the phone back in my pocket, walk around, cut the grass, something like that. Wash the car. I don't have to pay attention to it. So that's what this style is for right now. Is you don't have to look at anything. Listen to the video. If you lay down, take a nap, you need something to help you go to sleep, whatever. If you're emptying the dishwasher or folding laundry, or something like that. It's long and it's slow and it's boring, and I have no energy. But I do say some things in there that I think are important, and I think you should watch it if you want to understand who I am a little better. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about in my last video now for 3 minutes, it seems. God, this was going to be a shorter video today, but I don't think so. So I have this, what do I call it? I'm part of this discussion forum called Discus, or Disgust, Disqus. A lot of websites who don't have the capacity to do comments can add this to their website that allows people to have discussions in a comment forum without them having to host it. You create an account, and then you can track all your comments to different people and all that sort of kind of stuff. Each site has different rules. They don't like copying and pasting. I've learned the hard way. So if you're copying and pasting stuff, go back in and take out extra spacing and stuff like that, just so that it doesn't get flagged as spam automatically. Even when you go in and say, hey, this isn't spam, this is actually me, because it'll tell you that, hey, this was flagged as spam, it doesn't always go through. So anyway, on there, I had one comment I had made on a story I'd seen from Yahoo, which actually linked to a CNS News website, which is Cyber Network, so Cyber News Service or something like that. It used to be the conservative news service. Their motto is "Right news, right now." So it does. I probably how I got into it was first commenting on one thing from one of those types of pages. This one in particular was a story about Michio Kaku, who, according to the story, recently using my quote fingers, had made a comment that the observation of, were they called? I think in the story they were called primitive semi-radius tachyons. Although in another source it said something like primitive semi-primitive tachyon radio. It was talking about a radio that could detect these types of tachyons. Proved, according to what supposedly Michio Kaku had said, proved that the universe was a two-dimensional matrix. A hologram, if you will. And that proves that the universe was designed. Now, the two sources that they had listed for the source for the article that I had read actually looked like it had just copied and pasted every other paragraph from one source to the other source. And neither source said when or where Michio Kaku had actually said this. The one source had actually linked a 5-minute section of a Big Think article that he had at one time where he had talked about, again with the quote fingers, God being the designer of the universe. And there was really a question of, is God a mathematician? And Michio Kaku has stated in the past that his version of God is the God of Spinoza, the pantheistic God is nature God, not God as in Yahweh or Allah or Jehovah or I suppose Zeus or Thor or Vishnu or any of those gods, if you will. But the fact that we have no physical evidence yet of faster than light particles, which is what tachyons are, that couldn't prove, not that science proves anything anyway, could not prove that the universe was designed. So it really doesn't make sense that he would have said such a thing, unless he had said, if such a thing actually could be discovered, then perhaps we could say that the universe is designed. But that doesn't necessarily have to be true. And so I brought that up to a couple of people who had made comments, and this one guy, who I've been going back and forth with a lot today and yesterday, seems to think that writings by the Wigner, co-winner of the 1963 Nobel Prize for Physics for his work on neutrinos, and I want to say, was it boson quantum symmetry? Or maybe it was just quantum symmetry was his contribution to the work. This guy seemed to think that this work proves that the universe is spiritual and not material. And it is the scientific community has denied this for, decades, and it's all part of some atheist materialist cover-up for the true nature of the universe. And so I've been questioning him on this, and we find that the last thing he had said to me was, I'll show you that you're an idiot. Prove to me, explain to me how quantum symmetries are used to decide that the universe has no, is it privileged center? I think is what he referred to it as. I don't think that's right, because that sounds too useful a term. It was privileged. It might have been a privileged center, and I explained to him that I don't believe that they do necessarily. I believe that we have determined that there is no actual center to the universe because it is expanding in all directions based on Hubble's redshift and our observations of redshift in all directions of all things moving throughout the universe, including stars and galaxies moving tangent to our position. They are also moving away, which would indicate that the universe is expanding and not just, they're not just moving particularly in one direction. So I'm waiting. He basically wanted me to make his point for him. I said, why in the world should I make your point for you? you're making this claim here that you have not been able to demonstrate. He referred me to a website that talks about Wigner's quantum theory, which isn't used very much now because it had to do with there was an add-on postulate to Schrodinger's cat called Wigner's friend, and it had to do with whether or not Wigner's friend was the actual observer in the room when the cat died, or when they opened the box, I should say, or whether or not he was in another room. And this whole quantum, uncertainty based on this. And the theory it's not debunked. It is just not found to be useful yet in the data sets that we're collecting about quantum materials, from what I can tell. I'm not a quantum physicist. I do watch a lot of videos on it from quantum physicists. Lawrence Krauss, who's an astrophysicist, no, he's a cosmologist. Big fan of Carl Sagan. I do read, papers whenever I see names I recognize. Michio Kaku, I've watched just about every video I can think of from him, even though him and I, I'm sure, disagree on the God part. But be that as it may, this guy and the guy I was talking to before him had this tendency to fall back on this argument from authority fallacy, where this guy said something. And I tried to explain to him that even if Wigner had said these things, can you show me the calculations that he used to demonstrate this? And of course he can't, because there don't seem to be any, because Wigner did a lot of writing, a lot of this. He was a spiritual guy, died in 1995. He wrote, I think his last published paper was in 1993. So the guy wrote, he was born in 1907 or something like that. I mean, he was an old guy, 88 years old or something like that. But the guy wrote other things that were not necessarily scientific. This guy seems to think that because this guy is a Nobel Prize winner, he must be right. And I keep trying to explain to him that that's not how it works. Even Einstein, big on steady state, wrote things on steady state, tried to use steady state in explaining his models, which were not correct. We know the universe is not steady and unchanging. Okay. It doesn't make Einstein any less smart. Doesn't make him, any less of a genius. I mean, he had over 300 published papers on science and 150 published on other subjects. That doesn't mean all of his stuff was right all the time. We realize he was a genius because of the work that he did and how much he published and the quality of stuff that he published. But it doesn't mean that everything that he published was right. It doesn't mean that everything he published was super great, or that everything that any person publishes is right. And so I'm waiting to hear back from this guy to explain to me how he makes this argument work, or I'm about done with him. I've been arguing with him for 2 days. I probably have a good 5 or 6 typed pages of comments back and forth between this guy, and I'm not getting anywhere. So at some point I have to disengage. The last guy, the first guy that I was arguing with, we argued more about whether the standard model was supported by findings of the LHC, which so far it has. We haven't found anything outside the standard model with the LHC yet, but that doesn't mean that the 750 gigaelectron volt bump that they found on both Atlas and CMS and the last big run that they did won't turn out to be something that's not in the standard model. It could also very well be something that could be shoved into the standard model without having to rethink physics, from the ground up. Because chances are, with the standard model being the prevailing theory, anything that we can add to that isn't going to change the standard model. It'll just modify with the existing model. So, I guess that's it. This was going to be shorter, but apparently it's not. It is now 14 and a half minutes. So I'm going to call it a night and say goodbye and hello. As always.
It doesn't.